So, this is my 19th episode of Talks from Freaking Narnia, and I don't know how many times and in how many videos I have actually mentioned the X-Men. I should probably count that, because I'm sure it's going to be a lot of them. Howdy guys, this is Carla, and this week I'm gonna talk about the biggest, most awesomest piece of news that we got last week, the new 50 Shades of Grey trailer. No, of course I'm kidding. It's X-Men. I'm gonna talk about X-Men. So, last week we actually got a few new pieces of news regarding X-Men, not just in the movies, but also in upcoming movies and in deleted scenes from movies and in TV as well. As I've said 874 times before this, I love X-Men. It's my favorite comic book property of all time. They are the reason I consider myself a Marvel person, and any news regarding the X-Men universe in the movies and on TV is big news for me. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that today, about all the pieces of news that came about. I'm going to try to make it shorter, but then again, I say the same thing every week and fail, so don't quote me on that, but I will try my best to just run through these items because there's a lot to talk about and I want to be quick and succinct about it, if at all possible. This whole thing came about the release of XMen Apocalypse on home media via DVD, Blu-ray, and digital. And of course, stuff like deleted scenes came up, but also director's commentary. And in the DVD, which I have not purchased yet, but I will, in the director's commentary for the DVD and Blu-ray, it's kind of a conversation between director Bryan Singer and producer Simon Kinberg. At the end of this commentary track, while they're talking about the post-credits scene, which if you guys have watched my video about XMen Apocalypse, you know I really freaking loved. When they're talking about this scene, Bryan Singer comments that of course the scene is a reference to Mr. Sinister, as of course I already knew. He adds the revelation that this particular scene is a reference to the fact that Mr. Sinister will actually be the main villain of the upcoming third solo Wolverine movie. Yes! Woo woo! Woo woo! Woo woo! We're getting Mr. Sinister! We're getting Mr. Sinister! Guys, you don't know how huge this is in my life, okay? I'm a very easy person to please, and this has made me go through the roof, so I'm going to be happy about this until the Wolverine movie is actually released. I love this, and I just wanted to comment on this because I had come up with several possibilities for it when I mentioned it in my previous video, and him being in Wolverine 3 was one of the possibilities. Also, him possibly creating X-23 was another one of my possibilities, and maybe as a possible villain for Gambit, which by now is kind of in limbo. I don't know if Gambit is even going to happen at this point, but I hope it does because I love Gambit. He's my favorite character out of the entire X-Men universe, and I would love to see a movie just focused on him. But in the meantime, now that Singer has confirmed that he's going to be the main villain in the third Wolverine movie, we can only speculate that it's going to be played by Richard E. Grant, who has been stated to be like a mad scientist type, and that pretty much fits Mr. Sinister to a T, so I'm very much expecting that he will be the one to play the role. I'm really excited about this for many of the reasons that I've already stated, but it's interesting too at the same time because you think Mr. Sinister, who is basically my favorite X-Men villain of all time. Like, Apocalypse is pretty big on the list, but Mr. Sinister is the smart one, the one that manipulates everything that's happening without you even knowing that you're walking right into his trap, his plan, that you're behaving in exactly the same way that he wants you to behave, so that he can have the results he wants from you and do his, dastardly duties. And he has had such an impact on history because Mr. Sinister is a villain that is around for a long time and the X-Men can't ever really bring him down. and he just goes back into the shadows, and then he resurfaces a couple years later with another evil, dastardly plan. And I love that about him because more than anything, he's just smart. I mean, he has powers. Of course, he's given powers by Apocalypse, especially. But the best part about him is just he's really freaking smart. He's a genius, and that makes him even more dangerous to everybody because you never know when he's pulling the strings behind the events that just happened to you. Mr. Sinister is one of the biggest villains of the X-Men universe, but whenever I think about him, I don't necessarily think about Wolverine. They don't have as much contact in the series, mainly because Wolverine came years later after the X-Men started. So you don't necessarily think Wolverine right away, but it fits into the pattern because Wolverine was an experiment and Sinister is all about experiments, right? You would usually associate him with more of the Jean Scott thing, the Cable thing. Those are more the types of things that he has dealt with, or even Gambit. He has a history with Gambit as well. You don't usually think of Wolverine, but I think it fits. Again, because Wolverine is kind of an experiment. And because the third Wolverine movie is going to be set in the future, if it has to do at all with cloning Wolverine, I'm going to die in the theater, you guys. And I know this is really interesting because there have been set pictures from it, and you kind of see Wolverine with Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier, but also with a little girl. And I am all flutter, you guys, because if this little girl turns out to be X-23, I'm going to freak out. I'm going to die in the theater seat. I'm so excited about this. And I'm really, really happy. I'm really thrilled that it's confirmed. I mean, we all knew it already from the post-credits scene. We all kind of knew it already, or at least those of us who are fans of X-Men knew it already. Knew what the SX Corp meant, but it has so many possibilities. And you know why I like it even more? It's because even though he's going to be in a Wolverine movie and you can think, oh, they're just wasting a big character. That's the thing. If they use Sinister well, then they won't kill him off. They won't incapacitate him in any kind of way. They might even have him as more of a human character in this movie, and then something happens to him that enables him to be in many of the other X-Men movies, maybe in the main X-Men continuity, New Mutants. Sinister is a character that, much like Apocalypse, he can live for a long time, and he has lived for a long time. He started his experiments in the 1800s, and yet he's still, like, in present day, he's still around to keep poking at the X-Men's weaknesses and trying to manipulate things his own way. So this is a character that has the potential to make it through more than one movie, kind of like a Loki thing in a way. And I think it would be very smart of Fox to actually do that, because having Sinister sort of in the back burner through the other movies, it means that you can just bring him out whenever you need him, and maybe later on, if we do get to see an older Scott and an older Jean again as the movies progress, maybe they can bring in Sinister and go through the whole Escani Sons storyline, which would be mind-blowing. Even a thing. Especially now that we know that Cable's gonna be in Deadpool, you can totally just bring all these movies together through Sinister, and it would be amazing. So I'm really, really hoping that they use Sinister well in the Wolverine movie. I trust Mangold. The second Wolverine movie wasn't the greatest. At this point, I can barely remember kind of what was happening in it, but I do remember that I walked out of the theater and I thought, that was a cool movie. So I trust Mangold to do this well. I trust that the Singer-Kimberg combo knows what they're doing and where they're taking this entire series and not just the Wolverine movie. So I think it's going to be great. And since it's going to be Hugh Jackman's send-off from the Wolverine character, which, by the way, I totally don't believe that he's going to be done with it. He'll come back. Even if it's as a cameo, he will come back at some point. But if it's going to be his official send-off from the franchise, then I'm very certain that they're trying to do this as well as they possibly can. And having Sinister in there is just an added bonus. That man can be amazing if they really write him well. So that was one of the biggest news of the week for me. The second news that came out of the DVD release of XMen Apocalypse is, of course, the deleted scenes. And I watched most of them and I thought they were okay. I mean, there was nothing big that I would have liked to see in the movie necessarily. There was one scene that I did love, and it was Alex talking to Scott and telling him, well, now we're more alike than we thought we were, you know, and I thought that was really sweet. I can see why they left it out, but I would have liked to see it in the movie. I think it would have added a little bit more of an oomph to the relationship, especially considering that Havoc died, which, by the way, I still don't buy. He's going to come back at some point. I'm absolutely sure of it. If I didn't see a body, then he's not dead. That is all. But I think the one that's getting the most attention, though, is the deleted scene that had to do with the younger mutants. Scott and Jean and Jubilee and Kurt going to the mall and just having fun at the mall. And I thought I watched it, it's a long scene, and I thought it was a really cute, adorable, sweet scene. And one of those things, I know a lot of people complain that we don't see enough of the X-Men being like a family, that these movies focus too much on the plot and on the big fight at the end, but not so much on the character relationships. I understand that to a degree, because in the comics, the comics have been running for so long that you have time for so many different storylines, and we get a lot of, you know, mutants at the Institute just being students, being teenagers, having fun. You know, there's like Mutant Ball, which is like baseball but with mutant powers and stuff like that. We get a lot of that stuff in the comics that we don't have time to see in the movies. So a lot of people are saying, hey, you know, you should have included this scene in the movie. I mean, I would have loved to have seen it. I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't really know what the tone they were going for was, really. I do think it would have been a little bit of whiplash to have the Institute being destroyed on one side and then the kids having fun at the mall on another side, but I like it as a deleted scene. I thought it was really cute. It made me love Kurt even more than I already did, and you guys know I've told you in my previous video about the movie that I adored Kurt, who was my favorite part of the movie, and the young kids in general were my favorite parts of the movie. We got to see Jubilee actually use her powers, which was cool. We got to see a little bit of attitude from all of them. Like, I loved when Jubilee kind of pulls on Kurt's tail to keep him from looking at Olivia Newton-John's video for physical. He just kind of goes off and then she pulls his tail and drags him back in. I thought that was adorable. I really liked the banter that Jean and Scott had going. I thought it was really cute. Another part I thought was really interesting was the contrast between them being in the real world and being sort of discriminated against for being mutants, while these four go to the mall and Kurt is in his blue state. He's not even wearing an image inducer at that point, and people are just like, hey, mutants, go! Awesome! They just treat them like normal people and even treat them like cool people because they're different. And I thought that would have made a good point in the movie. But again, the movie already felt like it was lacking a bit of that message. So I don't know if adding that scene by itself would have helped a lot. So I don't know, I like seeing it as a deleted scene. I love that they filmed it, because it goes to show how much fun they were having while they were filming this movie, and I really like that. I do think it might have been a bit of tonal whiplash if they had included it in the actual movie. There are a lot of things when it comes to the second half of that movie that I didn't like, so maybe adding a little bit to the first half wouldn't really have made much of a difference. Either way, I don't know, it's a writing issue, but I really did love that scene, and I could watch that over and over again. Those kids are lovely. I hope they do get to make another X-Men movie with the kids taking up more of a prominent role, because I think they were awesome. Totally, completely awesome, and that mall scene is just delightful. I loved it. So yeah, that was the second thing I wanted to touch upon. And then there's the third thing, which isn't necessarily recent news, but when Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con was happening, I was not here. I was on my vacation trip, so I wasn't really paying much attention to all the stuff that was coming out of Comic-Con. And just this week, I realized that they actually released a trailer for FX's Legion, which is a TV show coming up based on the X-Men universe. They released a trailer at Comic-Con, and I had not seen it until 2 days ago. Apart from hating myself for being that dumb and not realizing that that was happening for like 3 months, I actually really loved it. See, Legion is a complicated property. He is a mutant. Fox and Singer and company have said there have been back and forth reports about it, because some of them say that it's going to be part of the X-Men universe, some of them say that it's not, that it's kind of a standalone thing, and it's confusing a little bit. But I think what they're trying to pull is sort of like the Marvel Netflix sort of divide, where you know that the Netflix properties for the Marvel universe are actually part of the Marvel universe, but they don't really touch upon that a lot. Like, you will just have quips here or a line here and there or something in the background that will make you think, so this is all happening in the same universe. But the two properties don't deal with the events that happen within each other. So that's sort of what I think they're trying to do with the FX Legion series. I'm not sure and hasn't been confirmed, so I guess we can't really know until we see it. And it would be a bit complicated, I think, to actually pull it off, or at least to pull it off as the comics would imply, because in the comics, Legion, who in the comics is named David Haller, and I believe in the series he will also be named David Haller, he's actually Professor X's son, Professor Xavier's son with a woman, and he didn't know. In the comics, he didn't know until his son was grown up that they were actually father and son, and I'm not entirely sure that the show is actually going to touch upon that. We probably won't ever hear David say that Professor X is his son. We probably won't ever see Professor X make an appearance in the TV show. So I don't know what they're going to do, but maybe they will just leave it sort of like ambiguous so that we don't know who David's father is, and we can just sort of assume that it's Professor X and they just never knew. Just by the fact that it's happening, that there's a TV show about David, it's already like a tip of the hat to the comic fans, because it's an awesome idea. And I love David. David is one of the most powerful mutants in the X-Men comics, period. Like, a lot of people know about Phoenix, they know about Cable, they know about these huge, immensely powerful, Omega level mutants, but very few people mention David, and David is incredible. Like, this guy's a game breaker, and that's why I hope that in the show they take his powers little by little, because he could be like the most powerful being in the universe and basically render the entire plot line of the TV show non-existent, because he has the power to bend reality, basically. David, when he was a kid, he went through a traumatic experience when people invaded his home and tried to kill his family, and he went through this traumatic experience that basically caused him to have dissociative consciousness disorder. So basically he has multiple personalities, but his real power, because people assume, oh, he's psychic probably, you know, but the real thing is that his powers are kind of reality bending powers in the kind of abstract way that like Wanda Maximoff's powers are. It's like, oh, she can create hexes and you're not really sure what hexes are. David can alter reality at his command, and not only is that already a big thing, but he also has this dissociative syndrome. He already has this split personality thing, so basically what happens is that he creates his own mutant powers at will, and every single one of the personalities he has, and some that he can actually absorb, because he can actually absorb people's psyches into himself, and with that he absorbs their powers, so he can create powers and he can absorb powers. So basically, depending on which personality is the dominant at the moment, David can basically do anything. And it's kind of ridiculous, because if you go to like the Marvel wiki, you can find an actual list of all the personalities David has, and it's like never ending. Okay, this guy, there's a reason why he's called Legion. He is a ton of people. He has a ton of people in his head, and it's freaking scary because each one of those people can actually do an incredible amount of damage, because they all have different mutant powers, and it's amazing. And I can't wait to see how they tackle that in the TV show, because it sounds like you're gonna have a great time. I mean, just the trailer itself, if you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. The trailer itself was amazing. It was completely crazy and just disjointed, and everything that a person who's suffering from this dissociative breaks is supposed to be. It made no sense, but at the same time it made all the sense in the world when you know who David is and what his issues are. I can't wait to see this show. As soon as they started talking about X-Men TV shows, I was iffy, because I'm like, I don't know if you can do this sort of thing on TV. Might be a little bit difficult. But I saw the trailer, and the trailer blew my mind. Seriously, I'm so excited to watch this series that I can't wait. Dan Stevens playing David, that's like a dream come true, okay? If you don't know who Dan Stevens is, you probably might know him from Downton Abbey. I didn't watch that, but I've heard that he was great. He's done a series of indie movies that have earned him great acclaim. And he's going to be the prince in Beauty and the Beast, the live-action remake opposite Emma Watson. So this guy is an up-and-coming star. And I have heard nothing but praise for his acting ability, and I am stoked that he's going to be David, because it takes a very, very, very talented actor to portray a character that is as strong and as fragile as David is, as individual and as fractured as David is. I mean, David is one of those characters that you just can't picture how anybody would play this guy, and I'm stoked that it's going to be Dan Stevens. The creator of Legion is also the creator of TV shows like Fargo, which have gained amazing acclaim in the last few days. I mean, just yesterday, I'm recording this on Monday, so just yesterday Fargo was nominated for Emmys and stuff like that. So it's like, this is a big deal. These are people who know what they're doing, and I can't wait to see this show. It's going to be amazing. And so to wrap this up a little bit, going off the idea that Fox is now doing TV shows, the rumors, I mean, there have been several rumored TV shows that they want to do. I mean, we know that Legion is a thing that is happening. There's also, they were talking about Hellfire maybe doing a TV show based on the Hellfire Club for Fox. They're talking about this X-Men series that is going to be unconnected to the actual X-Men group, but it's going to be about parents who realize that their children have mutant powers and they have to like escape from prosecution somehow, sort of like a midnight special with mutant powers sort of thing. So now it seems that Fox has been given the full reign to actually make X-Men TV shows, which in the past hadn't happened really, and I'm sure they would have liked to, but they didn't in the past. But the fact that we're talking so much about X-Men TV shows has brought forward the rumor that maybe Fox and Marvel are in negotiations again, because for a long while they just weren't speaking to each other at all. There's always been bad blood between Fox and Marvel. Now it seems that, they're willing to compromise, they're willing to work together, and that has brought forth more and more rumors that maybe Fox is thinking of giving characters back to Marvel. Who knows? I've heard the rumor that maybe they gave the Fantastic Four back to Marvel, and that's why they now have the rights to live-action TV shows. I don't know. I don't work at either company. I'm not even in the right side of the world for me to know any of of what goes on inside either of these companies. It sounds like they're negotiating something. I don't know what that something is, but it has brought forth more arguments for why characters should and have to go back to Marvel. And I do want to make my position on that clear, because I've seen so many discussions. I love Marvel. I think the Marvel movies are the most successful superhero movies we've had ever. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is something that I never thought that I would see in my entire lifetime, like an actual universe of movies that all interconnect, because even Fox with their X-Men continuity, they sort of throw out movies and then tell people, yeah, sure, they're connected, but they contradict each other a lot. I think what Marvel is doing is amazing, and I was very happy when I heard that Spider-Man was going back to Marvel, at least in some capacity, and I think they did a great job with Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War. I actually, even though I don't like Spider-Man, I'm actually looking forward to seeing the new Spider-Man movie just to see what that collaboration between Marvel and Sony implies and what it looks like. To all the people demanding that Fox somehow give all the Marvel characters back to Marvel, one, that's not gonna happen. Fox is making a lot of money with most of those characters. While they're still making money, I don't see any reason why they would be like, maybe we should do the right thing and return it to Marvel. No, this is a business. Marvel sold those rights, Fox bought them fair and square, so now I think they won't give them back. There's an exception to that rule, and it's the Fantastic Four, because for years Fox has been making Fantastic Four movies. 4 of them so far, and none of them have really worked. The 2 Jessica Alba Fantastic Four movies made some profit, but they weren't huge billion-dollar movies or anything, and they were pretty much critically panned. If you ask me, I kind of like them just because they're funny, but they're definitely not the Fantastic Four that I picture in my mind from the comics, definitely not. And then there was this latest Fantastic Four movie, which I haven't even watched because I don't want to be heartbroken, but it was apparently really terrible. It made like nothing at the box office, and it was just a giant flop for Fox. So people are, now that these TV shows are popping up, people are saying, hey, so what did Fox give Marvel to get these rights? And people are speculating that it might be the Fantastic Four because the Fantastic Four is not doing very well. Now, here's my position on it. I'm not one of those people who think that all the Marvel characters should go back to Marvel. I said it. There it is. It's nothing against Marvel. I'm sure the Marvel Studios would actually be able to make these movies based on these characters better because they are Marvel. They're their characters. They know what makes them tick, how they work. They know what to do so that people like their movies. They know how to make these movies. So I have no doubt that a Fantastic Four movie under Marvel would be better than anything Fox would be able to do. But here's the thing. There are so many characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe already. So there was Deadpool, Batman v Superman, there was Captain America Civil War, there was XMen Apocalypse, then there was Suicide Squad and Doctor Strange. Just in this year alone, we had 7 superhero movies. 7! That's because we had 2 DC. The rest were all Marvel characters. Imagine for a second that Marvel gets the rights back to Fantastic Four and X-Men. Marvel cannot push more than 3 movies a year. And so far they've never done 3. The most they have done is 2 movies. This year they had Captain America Civil War and they will have Doctor Strange in November. They might be able to make 3, and that's pushing it. So if Fox didn't have rights to Marvel characters, we would only have had 5 superhero movies this year, 5 max, most likely 4. There's simply not enough people in Marvel to make that many movies a year. So I, for one, I'm glad that there are Marvel properties outside of Marvel Studios, because that means, you know, hey, Marvel can make 2 superhero movies a year, Fox can make 2 superhero movies a year, Sony can make their own superhero movie, maybe one a year or something, and we're gonna have like a bajillion superhero movies overall each year, and that is great. I want to see as many superhero movies as possible made. Even though I have no doubt that Marvel would be able to knock a Fantastic Four movie or an X-Men movie out of the park, I don't want them to have all the rights, because you put all your eggs in one basket and then you only end up with enough chickens as the ones that actually fit in the basket. Meanwhile, if you have your eggs split in many different places, you might be able to hatch more chickens. Basically, that's my thought about it. Now, when it comes to Fantastic Four, I understand why people want it to go back to Marvel, because it's been done terribly, and the Fantastic Four villains in particular are really impressive and would work very well with other superheroes other than just the Fantastic Four. I mean, Doctor Doom is so iconic, and you have Silver Surfer, and you have Galactus, who are galactic level villains who might well work well in, like, say, an Infinity War or a Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I understand why people want them to go back to Marvel. I just don't want the only thing to come out of the Fantastic Four to be the villains. Fantastic Four is my second favorite comic book property of all time, right below the X-Men. And the reason I like them is because of the Fantastic Four. Because of Reed, Johnny, Sue, and Ben. The 4 of them. That's what made me love the Fantastic Four movies. And sure, the villains are awesome and are better than many villains from many other properties that we have out there. Like, I don't even know who Thor's villains are, but I know who Doctor Doom is. I know who Galactus is. They're iconic. But I'm afraid that if the Fantastic Four reverts back to Marvel, that Marvel will focus on using Doctor Doom and using Galactus and using Silver Surfer, but they won't include the actual Fantastic Four in movies, and I don't want that to happen. There's so many characters already in the Marvel universe that just giving one movie to the Fantastic Four might be okay, but we would never have as many Fantastic Four movies as we could possibly have if another studio had the rights to them. I don't think Fox has done right to the Fantastic Four at all. So if I could have any other studio pick it up instead of Fox, I would be really happy. I don't know. I get the feeling that if they go back to Marvel, we would never see an actual Fantastic Four movie. Because there's simply not enough time for them to make it. There's not enough space for them to make it. There's not enough money for them to make it. And if they do make one, they might make one. It will take like 6 years for us to get a sequel, simply because they have to juggle all of these other characters that all have to get individual movies, and I don't think it's fair. I want the Fantastic Four to have a fair opportunity. So I don't trust Fox, but I hope that if they get their act together and actually make a decent Fantastic Four movie, at least I'll be able to see more of the Fantastic Four in my life than I would if Marvel had them. So it's a tricky balance. That's my feeling. As far as the X-Men goes, I don't think the X-Men should go back to Marvel. I think they should stay at Fox. I think Fox has been doing a decent enough job with the characters. I'm sure there have been a few duds, as I've mentioned in previous videos. Let us not talk about the travesties that are The Last Stand or the Wolverine Origins movie, which was terrible. But for the most part, I like what they've done with the characters. I love what the Bryan Singer movies have been great as far as I'm concerned. And I think they have a good hold on the characters. I think they need to expand. And I think they're starting to realize that, because now they made Deadpool this year, and it was one of the most successful movies they've ever done with the lowest budget they've ever used. So now they're starting to realize that they don't need to stick to Wolverine or to Jean or to Scott. They can't diversify. Like, X-Men universe, the mutant universe is so huge. There's so many characters. They can just cherry pick. Each and every one of those characters has something interesting that would be useful in a movie. So I think they're starting sort of to see that with this whole idea that maybe the New Mutants will be coming out, and maybe you have a Deadpool 2, X Factor. There are so many different teams and so many different characters you could explore. And sure, they don't have the recognition that a Jean or a Scott or a Wolverine have, but you can make them popular. Nobody knew who Tony Stark was before Iron Man came out. Now everybody knows. He's the biggest star of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so do the same. I don't think the mutants should go back to Marvel under any circumstances, because they will just get lost in the incredibly huge universe that Marvel has developed. And I think the mutants are such a rich community of characters that they deserve their own standalone universe for them, and you can make that work. And I think Fox has made it work so far. So yeah, I'm definitely against the X-Men going back to Marvel. The Fantastic Four I could see, but I think Marvel would rather have them for the villains and not for the actual Fantastic Four, and that makes me sad. So I don't think there's much option in that case, because Fox has screwed the Fantastic Four so badly, but it does make me sad at the same time. It's a bittersweet thing. So if it turns out that Fox really did negotiate the TV deals for the Fantastic Four rights, there's not much I can do about it. I'm going to be sad, because that would mean that I won't be seeing a Fantastic Four movie, a standalone movie, anytime soon probably. But hey, at least I guess they can use Doctor Doom and Galactus and stuff like that, so who knows. So yeah, that's about my position when it comes to Fox and Marvel. I guess we'll see. I definitely don't think that Fox is willing at this point to give the rights back for anything, unless it's in exchange for something that they really like the TV rights that they had, or the toy rights, which Fox doesn't have yet. I don't know, I guess we'll see how that goes. The Fantastic Four, I believe that's sometime in the next few years. I mean, they have a very limited time frame to make another Fantastic Four movie, otherwise the rights revert back to Marvel. So maybe Marvel's just waiting, and maybe Fox is just waiting. I mean, they're still talking about a sequel, but I don't think that's gonna happen, because that movie bombed so hard. All I know is that those are my feelings. I would want the X-Men to stay with Fox if at all possible, and I think that's what's going to happen. And hey, if the Fantastic Four have to revert back to Marvel, there's not much they can do. Fox shot themselves in the foot with that one. Sorry. Yeah, so that's my video about the X-Men. I don't know yet what I'm gonna talk about next week. I do know that the trailer for Passengers is coming out tomorrow, so maybe if that's really cool, I'll talk about that. Otherwise, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to talk about yet, but if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to drop them in a comment. I'm always up for suggestions from you guys on any kind of geeky topic that you have, be it movies, books, TV, anything like that. If you'd like me to talk about it and I know anything about the topic that you suggested, then I'm going to add it to my list of videos to make in the future. In the meantime, you can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsoweird with underscores between the words, and I am on Tumblr at girlsoweird with hyphens between the words. You can find a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia, and as usual, you can find all my videos at my main page at FreakingNarnia.com. They're all in there in case you want to catch up, so be sure to visit. Remember, I do have a Redbubble store. The link is in the description, where I sell all kinds of typography art based on quotes from my favorite TV shows, movies, and books. And if you guys are into the same stuff that I am, be sure to visit, check it out, maybe purchase something. You can put it on apparel, on phone covers, all sorts of stuff you can purchase from that store. So please give it a try, check it out, maybe purchase something if you're in the mood. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I'm very happy for every subscriber that I get, and I'm really happy that you guys are actually watching these videos. It's really, really cool. And I guess that's it for me today. I will see you guys next week with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. Watch out for that X gene, guys. Biggest, most awesomest news. The 50 Shades of we had 7, and let me count. They don't need to stick to Wolverine.